50,000? You got 50,000 on Double Dragon?
When I was about 9 years old, my mum used to work in a preschool somewhere around here, and my dad would pick me up from school and together we'd pick her up after she finished. And before she finished, we'd often stop at the little row of shops behind me here, where in the fish and chip shop they had an arcade game of Double Dragon. And sometimes my dad would give me the 40 cents to play it. Yeah, 40 cents. Remember when the arcade games cost 40 cents? Remember arcade games at all? Anyway, I thought I'd go back there now. It has been some time since I've been 9, just a few years, give or take. And anyway, I thought I'd go back there now and see if it's still there. Probably not.
Yep, no, it's gone. It's long gone. Double Dragon by Technos is a spiritual successor to Renegade. Renegade was the pioneer of the beat-em-up genre, but Double Dragon is particularly well remembered for introducing such ideas as two-player cooperative play and the ability to use weapons taken from enemy computer characters. It had impressive graphics for the time and a distinctive soundtrack. As a kid, I wanted to play this game at home, but the only game console I owned then was an Atari 2600. I remember my parents being concerned with me buying it because they thought it might be too violent for me. Check out this ultra-realistic violence. Ooh. Ultimately, I never actually purchased it for my Atari 2600, which is probably just as well. It really wasn't a very good port of the arcade game. They shouldn't have bothered porting it to it. Its rendition of the classic theme music was horrible enough by itself. Also, you can't pick up and use weapons in this version of the game, which is a pretty poor effort considering that the original arcade Double Dragon was the first beat-em-up game to introduce this gameplay idea. And look at the box art of the Atari 2600 Double Dragon port, it looks nothing like the game. Like the arcade version, the Atari 2600 version does have two-player co-op, but there's an invisible line across the middle of the screen that neither player can cross. It makes it impossible in this version to actually help each other in the game. There's probably thousands of copies of Double Dragon for the Atari 2600 buried in a landfill somewhere in New Mexico, along with all the other bad ports for the Atari 2600 such as Pac-Man and E.T. It's really no wonder that the video game industry almost died out entirely in 1983 in America. So the first home system that I played a port of Double Dragon on was on my Commodore 64. It's not a completely awful port, it's certainly better than the Atari 2600 version, no doubt, but it's not great either. It's let down by its lack of music during gameplay. Double Dragon's iconic music was a key part of the game. The pace is slow too. The controls are fast, but enemies take a while to die as you stand there punching or kicking them over and over. In short, it's a bit boring. Also, for some reason, everyone on this port is missing a stomach. Yeah, their stomachs are invisible, which is a little strange, I would think. The next version I played was on my cousin's PC when I was about 10. The DOS port of Double Dragon isn't very good. Like the Commodore 64 version, it's let down by lack of music during gameplay, and the graphics controls are pretty poor. It's certainly more detailed than the Commodore 64 version, but it's not as responsive as the arcade. It feels awkward to control. But finally I found a home version of Double Dragon that was good. When I was about 11, I went to a friend's birthday party. Unlike me at the time, he owned a NES, and he had Double Dragon. This is a great home version of Double Dragon. The graphics, while obviously inferior to its arcade cousin, are still nice. The music is a really nice catchy NES interpretation of the arcade Double Dragon soundtrack, but most importantly, this version's fun to play. It has a quick pace as you progress through the missions and the controls are fast and responsive. It successfully replicates the fast action feel of the arcade version. The only downside is that there's no two-player cooperative mode, which is a bit odd considering that the game is called Double Dragon and is about two brothers, but that aside, it's still a great version to play. But I also found out at this friend's birthday party that there was a sequel on the NES to Double Dragon 2. It was at the arcade and on many other systems as well, but the NES version is the only one I've played. It's an impressive game. The only thing I don't like about it is that unlike the original, in Double Dragon 2 the punch and kick buttons are reversed depending on what direction you're facing. This is actually how it was in Double Dragon's predecessor Renegade, but I find it annoying in Double Dragon 2. My next Double Dragon memory was the NES game of Battletoads and Double Dragon. It's a crossover between Techno's Double Dragon and Rare's Battletoads. It plays more like the original NES Battletoads than a Double Dragon game to me though, but it doesn't have the same insanely high difficulty of the original fun, but really tough Battletoads game. Gosh, that was a hard game. And my final memory of Double Dragon is from the SNES game Double Dragon 5 The Shadow Falls, that as a teenager I hired out from the video shop. It was a terrible game. It doesn't play as a regular Double Dragon game. Instead, it's a head-to-head fighting game in the vein of Street Fighter 2. However, unlike Street Fighter 2, it's not fun. It's clunky and slow. It wasn't made by Double Dragon's original creators, Technos. Instead, it was an American-produced sequel. And that's what I remember of Double Dragon. Its striking graphics, sound, and gameplay captured my attention when I was 9 years old at a little fish and chip shop here. It's that classic story of two brothers, Billy and Jimmy, one of whose girlfriend, Marion, is kidnapped by a gang, so they fight a bunch of people in the gang to rescue her. Then when they rescue her, they fight each other, because it turns out that they both love her. So whoever wins kisses Marion, and they all live happily ever after. Ah, well, except the brother who lost the fight against his brother. Yeah, he probably wasn't too happy. It's not especially a deep story, and it contains some strange things such as this big green guy. He used to freak me out as a kid. But it's a game that I remember well, and I remember thinking at the time when I first saw the arcade game, you can actually do that? You can pick up and use weapons, you can walk right and keep moving, and you can explore this made-up world? And perhaps that's what made it memorable. It was a defining moment of gaming for me when I realised that we'd gone beyond that single-screen gameplay of the recent past to instead being able to tell a story that you were a part of in a world which you could explore. And that's my memories of Double Dragon. Thanks for watching.